Welcome to the Pearls of Wisdom podcast, where we explore the intersection between philosophy, spirituality, and music through sharing our unique stories and perspectives. I'm your host, Pearl Botts, and today my guest is artist, songwriter, and entrepreneur, James Kaye.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, first things first, give me a little summary of your background. Yeah, let's start there.
Okay. Well, it's funny when people ask me what I do, I always say I try to do as little as possible.
Okay, I love that.
Just works better for me.
Mm-hmm.
But, overall, I would say I do a little bit of everything. I think you kind of have to now, like in the music business or maybe in any business.
Sure.
For me, especially, just it keeps me creative and engaged. So I started out as an artist, just loved writing lyrics and making music. And then when we came to LA, we opened a recording studio. And that's when I started writing for other artists. And I was doing it a little bit before, but I didn't really know that that was like a job. So we started doing that and working for independent artists and then major label artists, and then started getting into sync and doing stuff for like TV, film. And I've always really loved like throwing concerts. So ever since I was like young, first starting out, when I was like just out of high school, I couldn't get booked to like play at bars. So we started throwing our own shows basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love the like live side of things. But yeah, more lately just started like a music tech project that I've been working on, and also accidentally started DJing for my artist friends on tour. So doing a little bit of that as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love that.
Mm-hmm.
I do kind of think that it's nice to hear that you're doing multiple things and it doesn't like take away from the other one. And in fact, they probably all coexist in a way that helps each other. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think there's definitely benefits of having like a more singular focus on something. And there's probably pros and cons
Sure.
of that, so it's still when people talk about balance, I don't think balance is like this thing that happens like in a week or in a month, or like even in a year. Sometimes balance is like, okay, how can I balance my life over the course of, this amount of time or this higher, time rise, longer timeline, and create something that I really want for myself,
Yeah, I feel like similarly with like the concept of consistency, like consistency doesn't necessarily mean, let's say like posting on social media or whatever, like every single day or whatever, 5 times a week. Like consistency is just, it's more of a mindset. Like no matter what, I'm gonna get back on track.
Right.
Like I've had periods of time where I'm posting a lot, periods of time where I haven't at all, but I consider myself to be consistently posting on social media because I have over the course of the years committed to like putting myself out there online and seeing the benefits of it.
Yeah. Which you do a great job of that, I think, by the way. Yeah, I think it's like, which is tough. It's very tough to do. But sometimes consistency for me, doing the same thing gets really boring. And so consistency, I think for me is a little bit different, where I was like, as long as I'm doing something, I think the one thing that I'm the most consistent in is staying in contact with people and building relationships, and always just staying like checking in with people. If I think about someone, I'll shoot them a text. I have a friend who like he's always calling his family, and I'm like, damn, I never even call my family like that much, because I'm always like, oh, someone's gonna take 2 hours to talk to my mom, But like that's because I wait, So if I call them more often, then the calls don't have to be as long, But yeah, I'd say consistency is a major one for sure.
And we were talking earlier, like a couple days ago, about like how underrated the skill of being a dope vibe is.
Yeah, definitely. I think I just got back from a songwriting camp in Korea, which I told you about.
So fire.
And yeah, it was super cool. And I was like really, really inspired by all the people that were there, and how like at such a high level they were, you know? And
Mm.
to me, I'm like, well, I'm not very technically skilled in any one of these things, you know?
Mm.
And I realized like what my kind of thing is, like my superpower is like bringing up the level of like the
Hmm.
room or like other people or like someone's doing an idea under their breath. I'm like, wait, what is that? Like, I want to hear that, you know?
Mm.
And I'm just like hyping everybody up. And I'm like, so all of a sudden, like, getting the best thing out of everyone and like
Mm.
me being like focusing on that, like, you know, it creates some really cool, dope vibes, I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How how did you discover that that is your superpower?
I don't know. Like it really got revealed to me like recently, like while I was there. But I think,
Oh,
yeah.
so this is a recent realization.
Yeah. I mean, I've always kind of been like, damn, like, what's my lane? Like, what's my
Mm.
thing? Like, what can I bring? And so,
Mhm.
even since I was a kid, like playing sports, I was like, I was never very fast or like very big or very
Mm.
strong. I was like, I'm just gonna like basically just try way harder. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
just like try to just literally, you know, or if I'm just like getting in people's head, like in sports, it's like talking shit. Like that's what was like my beginning thing. I was just like, I'm gonna fucking kill this guy. Like I don't know how, you know, but like so that was kind of like the start of me. And like people hated me when I was a kid, like hated me. And so growing up, like I still have that a little bit, like that competitive kind of nature, you
Mhm.
know, that like I guess, you know, in a nice way it would be called passion. But trying to channel those into the right things is always like a challenge as well.
Right.
Hmm.
I mean, I feel like that's growing up and maturing,
Yeah.
right? Like everyone has like unbridled talent or just what
Enthusiasm.
enthusiasm, like whatever it is. We're all unbridled at the beginning.
Uh-huh.
And like the task of adulthood is like being able to channel it into a productive, like meaningful, fulfilling way.
Yeah. And I think the task of an artist is also what to do that, but also to like maintain that like child, that
Hmm.
fun, that excitement, or like the play aspect of it. Because otherwise, if I'm just like, well, logically, like I'm supposed to make a song like this and do it like
Right.
that, it's just like, well, then I pretty much know I know what I'm gonna make. But if I can
Right.
be more spontaneous in it, like that's usually when like the cool stuff happens. Like all the times when I'm like, oh, I really don't think I should do this. And I'm just like, yes. And then I do it. I'm like, whoa, like that's how my DJing thing started, you know?
Mm. So how did your DJ thing start?
We're just on tour with my buddy and like we were opening for an artist and our DJ like had to go home. Like we were down in like Arizona and like New Mexico and Texas. And he was like about to get his green card. And he was like, I don't want to go through all these border crossings and like fuck this
Oh,
up. So
damn.
he's like, I'm going to go back to California and I'll meet you guys in like Florida. And so I just like started DJing from the laptop. And I'm like, well, even like I know how to like press play and just like hype the crowd up if I mess up.
Hmm.
And so it just kind of started like that. And then another artist friend of mine like asked me to go on tour. And I was like, well, I'll probably get a board now and learn Serato and just so it's just kind of been going from there, you know?
Mm. Do you like DJing?
I think it's amazing.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's different because being an artist on stage, you spend a lot of time like you're like getting ready, like is my voice warmed up? I
Right.
can't really talk too much. Like I have to be in my zone. Like,
Uh-huh.
and then I'm gonna go out
Uh-huh.
and perform a bunch of songs that nobody's heard, and within a 10-minute slot, like try to get people to like enjoy it, you know?
Yes.
And having done that so many times, I understand like the struggle of that. But like when I'm DJing, I'm like, I could literally just be like yelling, talking with someone like the whole night and just go on stage and just like play songs people already like. And I just like know it's going to be fun, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just different.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel like from talking to you, I feel like one thing that you're good at is like flowing through things
Hmm.
and like and connecting to the joy and like the spontaneity that I feel like creativity demands.
Yeah.
Um do you think that was something that you had to learn or were you just like naturally like that or what?
Maybe. I mean, I'm a water sign, you know.
Scorpio, same
We have the
birthday,
same
November
birthday. So
21st,
yeah,
baby.
so I think that's a big part of it. You know, if you believe in that. But I was also the youngest in my family, so I have 3 older
Mm,
brothers.
okay.
So it was like pretty much like it was never really me deciding like what we were gonna be doing, like so
Interesting.
I always kind of had to just like, all right, well, let me get in here and just like make the best out of this.
Hmm.
And so maybe it's that. Also I just think like I think life is so short and I
Mm,
see so many people just shoot themselves in the foot over and over and over again because they're only focusing on the negative stuff.
mm,
And it's just like, dude, like I hurt, like I get it. Like life
mm.
sucks sometimes and it's hard and it's shitty, but just like if you could like I always just try to as quickly as possible like figure out a way to just like laugh at it and then I'm
Yeah.
just like wow, I just feel way better. It just feels
Mhm.
better. So, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like following the good feeling sounds like maybe trite or I don't know, just something that doesn't
Irresponsible. Mm.
irresponsible, ignorant, like not really dealing with like actually like the hardships of life.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that a lot of people can be resistant to that idea because it's like, well, you don't know what I've been through, or like you don't know how I've struggled, or other things can be involved, race, gender, socioeconomic status. Like there's a variety of
Of
struggles
course.
that you could um have, of course,
Yeah.
and everybody does.
Mhm.
Um, and like I just feel like what you were saying about focusing on the good and focusing on what is going well, it what am I saying?
I think being present and being grateful is like the most important thing. No matter
Mm,
where you're at, who you are, what you're doing, you're here, you're alive. I've seen people who had it way better than me do
mhm,
horrible in life, and I've seen people who had it way worse than me doing way better than me.
mhm,
And it's always their mindset.
mm,
And it's always like the gratitude that they have for
mhm,
like what they actually do have.
mm.
And that's really hard for people when they're stuck to their past or they haven't
Yeah,
faced like, oh, like I'm this way because my mom's this way or whatever.
right.
And just like really be like, okay, like all this stuff happened, but
Mhm,
like now I'm here and I can decide like which way I want to go,
mhm.
you know?
Yeah. I think if you don't, it's very easy to get stuck. Like if you don't, I think it is important to go through the process of being like, no, this very difficult thing happened to me. Or like my life is hard in this way, like validating your experience.
Hmm.
But if you never do that, if you always like are just suppressing it or trying to push through, like if you don't ever acknowledge that in your own self, I'm not sure if you'll be able to get to the like gratitude present part of it.
Yeah. Well, I think action helps a lot. Like I would say like action, my mentor of mine told me like action obliterates fear. So anytime like you're scared, if you just do
God.
something,
Yeah.
or like replacing doubt with effort.
Mhm.
But like to go back to it, it's like I can't just always do the thing that feels good. So
Mm.
like even though I'm still choosing to like try to be positive or try to do this or try to do this right thing, it's like if I'm only choosing what feels good, then that is like its own little like
Mm.
cycle of shit that just like, okay, well, I'm never getting out of this. So there is like a level of like, okay, let me do this hard thing, but happily,
Right.
you know?
I feel like there's a distinction between like doing something that feels comfortable
Mm.
versus doing something that feels good.
Right.
Like for me, doing the dishes, for instance, like just like a stupid example or like a very like whatever example,
Yeah.
like I don't think, oh, that's one of like my favorite things to do in life. Like that's so fun and comfortable. I don't want to do it, but it feels good to do it.
Mhm.
It feels good to be on top of my finances. It feels good to like wake up early and make my bed. Like it's not pleasurable or comfortable, but a lot of times people will also choose what's comfortable even when it feels bad
Oh, yeah.
just because it's what they
Like,
know.
being comfortable in my discomfort, you know?
Yes.
And I think that what you're talking about is, like, the difference between I've heard of this put so well one time, is like, the difference between, like, serotonin and dopamine.
Mm.
And, like, dopamine is, like, the cheap, fast thing that we get when we, like, eat fast food or like
Mhm.
are drinking or whatever. And serotonin is more coming from those things of like, oh wow, I'm like accomplishing something or I'm doing hard tasks or I'm like exercising or I'm like
Mhm.
getting things done or having hard conversations. It's like you feel that little level of like, oh shit, like, well, what's the next thing? I could
Mm,
do the next thing. That wasn't so bad, you know? And it never is. Like the hard thing
it
we're
never
avoiding is
is.
like never as bad as I'm like, I'll just be like, oh, I can't do
Hmm.
it. And then I was like, wow, how the hell did I take 2 months to do that? I could have done it in
Yeah.
2 seconds, you know?
It's interesting, like, I feel like that anticipation period, it goes both ways. Like, anticipation of doing something that you, like, don't feel like doing is kinda, like, the worst part.
Yeah.
And also anticipation for, like, something good that's about to happen is
Mm,
kind of the best part too. It's not just being on the vacation. It's, like, planning it, thinking about what pictures you're gonna take or whatever, like,
totally.
going on the different events, like, that anticipation part of life, I feel like we don't think that that's what we're avoiding or looking forward to. We think it's the event,
Yeah.
but it's really all the way up to the thing.
Yeah, it's like that idea of like you think you're expecting some type of reward. Like they've done studies on like gamblers where like after a certain amount of gambling they've done, like they don't even necessarily get the rush when they win. They get the rush when they make the bet. And
Right.
it's like tricking your brain into like, well, if I take this action, like something good can happen. Or
Mhm.
if I, if I take this action, something bad can happen. So then I don't, you know?
Right. Yeah. Also, I kinda wanted to talk about, gratitude and presence, like, I feel like those words are, like, kinda just, like, thrown around,
Hmm.
you know? And I fully agree that presence and gratitude is really the key to life. Um, and, like, it really is like a practice, like,
Mm,
it's a skill, it's a practice, it's a discipline.
mm,
Like, you have to intentionally be like, "I'm not gonna live in a moment other than the one that I'm living in right now." And it's difficult to do. Like, I guess how do you intentionally do those things besides just being like, "Be present and be grateful," you
right.
know?
I think like you said, it is a practice. It takes a lot of practice. And your mind can really only focus on one thing at once.
Mm,
So even if everything is going wrong, if you stop and take like 3 deep breaths and and you go like to yourself like, wow, like I'm alive.
mm,
I have clothes on. I'm in a
mhm,
house. I'm in a bed and I have food and all these different things like it's like you can only think about those things
mm,
and it puts you in this new like mindset. It kind of raises your frequency and then
mm.
when you feel like that and you're like okay wow like it's not so bad like then I'm like okay well let me actually reach out to my friend or let me
Right.
maybe I'll pick up this book or I will try to finish that project that I have. But if I'm
Mm,
just like no everything's going wrong and blah blah blah, blah it's like
mm,
how can I move forward in that mindset.
hmm. Yeah, I do like I also have that experience and I feel like a gratitude practice, like it's not some like frilly ephemeral woo-woo shit. Like it creates genuine momentum in
Hmm.
your life when you stop and realize like having not everyone has shelter. Like
No.
people don't there are people on this earth who don't have shelter
They
and
don't
who
have
don't have
food, they
food.
don't have families, they don't have a
They
phone.
don't have an able-bodied like
Dude, like, you ever get sick and you're like, "Oh my god, what if I never bounce back from this?" Like, I'll be one of those people that's just sick forever, and it's like, that
Yeah.
is the reality for so many people, and it's
Mhm.
like, it's crazy to think about.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was listening to this pod earlier and I forget who it was, but it was about like the comfort crisis.
Mm,
And we all every single person I've ever met now is we're all addicted to our phones. Like our screen time is astronomical unless you're some incredible like unless you've very intentionally done a lot of stuff like it's hard to resist and it's made to be addictive. But
totally.
like and we also are never bored anymore because there's
Mm,
always something to fill our time.
yeah.
So and yet we're the most miserable we've ever been.
Right.
Like suicide rates are incredibly high, depression is high, anxiety is high. It's like we don't have enough hard things in our life to like balance us out.
Totally.
Um and this guy, he was basically I forget why, but um he was saying that he was on some trip to some rural, snowy location
Hmm.
where in order to go to the bathroom, you had to like go outside and trek in the snow and like go to some like shed, like whatever, however many feet away. And like he didn't have a lot of food because you had to like go gather your food and it was in the winter time. And, he was like always cold, always starving. He was doing some research for something. Um, and then on his way back, he was on a plane and, we don't think of planes as like the epitome of luxury. We're like, it's
Right.
uncomfortable. We're like jammed in these tiny little seats. The
Hmm.
bathroom is like, okay, like,
Hmm.
but he was like, but when I was on that plane, like after that situation, he was like, it felt so
It's the
luxurious and
best. Somebody
nice.
bringing you a drink and like,
Yes. And he's like, these pretzels, oh my God, I didn't have to hunt for these. Like, you just have a new perspective on life when you have these things that like balance you out.
yeah.
Um, and because he had that experience, it's like, if we don't have those things naturally, um, our brains are not, I'm having a
We're
brain
not
fart, but
activated. We're not activated at all. Everything's too easy.
way too easy.
Like
We're miserable because it's too
I
easy.
don't have to do anything. I can just lay in my bed all fat and just like order Uber Eats and just be like, and then I'm like, why do I feel so bad? It's like, well, shit, like there's, like I said, there's no serotonin, like being like, I'm not
Mhm.
doing anything. So like, I've been blessed to like travel and see different things, and I've taken different opportunities to like go different places, and like I see how other people live, and it's like, there's so much more focus on like the actual everyday of doing life,
Mm.
like you said, like if you had to like even just go out in your backyard and like pick the vegetables that you were gonna like eat for breakfast, you'd feel so much more connected and so much more proud and so much more healthy and just so
Mhm.
much more like you ever been super busy and you're like, damn, I'm not like stressed. I'm not like
Mm.
worried about anything. I'm
Mhm.
not like thinking about that thing that somebody said to me 2 months ago and like having an
Right.
argument with them in my head. I'm like, I'm doing shit. Like I'm doing things that I'm moving forward with my life, and like I'm already,
Mm.
my mind, like I said, is already like it's in use.
Yeah. It's like that is the downside of our culture right now. And also, in my personal life, I'm like, because food and laundry and just like living and existing and surviving takes up, I don't know, maybe 25% of my life.
Hmm.
The rest of the percentage, for me, like I feel like in my life, I've been afforded so much space to think about like why,
Hmm.
purpose, meaning, like cultivate emotional intelligence, like have a lot of input from different like books, like even to have the luxury of having that space, um, I feel like has created like a consciousness shift in at least the Western world, and I think and that affects everything. So I feel like it's good that we have all this time and that I don't have to like go down to the river and like wash my clothes
Right.
like by hand.
Yeah.
But if I utilize it to sit down and have fake arguments with people, like it's just going to create more
Online.
misery online.
It's crazy.
Like, but at the same time, I'm like, I needed to have that space in order to think differently and act differently as well,
Yeah.
you know?
It's like, what do you do with your time? Like what do you do in a regular day? And I think like that, like I love the saying, like Beyonce has the same 24 hours as you.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, of course, all different people have all different opportunities and different
Mhm.
access and different upbringings and skill sets and race and gender and all
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
And you know, how do I spend my time? How intentional am I with my time? And like the only way that I've found to do that is to actually plan things
Mm.
and be like, okay, like I'm going to do, I have these meetings or whatever, or like I'm doing this on Friday, or like I'm going to take a month and I'm going to go on this tour, or, I have to be in the studio this many times a week because otherwise I am just like chilling,
Right.
just chilling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And it's so cool that we live in a time where like you can just craft whatever kind of life you think will be the coolest and the
totally.
most fun.
Yeah.
Like there are people whose lives are taking candy and freeze drying it and then eating it on
Yeah.
camera. And they have whole businesses
Yeah.
eating freeze dried candy. Like you could literally do
You can
whatever.
do anything. And that's why I think for an artist and for a creative, it is so hard. Like these days, it's like, okay, like being an artist is hard. Like it's expensive. Like you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to create content. Like nobody wants to listen to you. There's so much other music out there, but it's like, if you have like a couple thousand fans in 2024, you should easily be able to make 50, 60K a year.
Oh yeah.
And I think the average, like in America, I don't know, I think it's like 40 grand is the average, like,
That sounds about right.
individual income. So it's like
Mhm.
you should be able to be middle class as an artist with a couple thousand fans, like
Mhm.
easily.
Mhm.
Yeah. But
Mhm.
so many people are like, well, it's too hard and they don't put in the effort.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It's like I mean, when everything is so easy, it's like it's actually not hard.
no.
To be an artist now as compared and like actually make a real living from it,
Yeah.
it's actually the easiest it's ever been.
Probably, yeah.
It's just not zero effort.
Yeah.
And there are, of course, challenges and
Of
obstacles,
course.
but without challenges and obstacles, then no one would actually even want to do it.
Yeah.
Like, because we would all like that's the point, you
Yeah.
know?
I think, just because I love to do something doesn't mean that I deserve to be paid for it,
It's a bar.
you know? But I have all the tools there
Mm-hmm.
if I do want to go that route.
Mm-hmm.
Some people don't want the art to be like a commercial thing at all. That's totally fine.
Totally fine.
And I'm always like looking at other ways that I can have different streams, because sometimes it does feel like, well, I'm just making this song to get, or making this video to get a rise out of people, to get more engagement, to get more streams on my own, to get 2 cents. It's just like,
Yeah.
I don't even want to do that. Like I want to
Mm-hmm.
make like music because I love to make it. And if there's other ways that I can earn money in different ways and still feel creative, then I'm like, it's even better,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's definitely something that I realized early on of like I feel like the idea that your art as an artist like what legitimizes you as an artist is your ability to fund your art through your art.
Mm,
And that's cool, but also like that can put pressure on your creativity that could stifle it as well. Like
totally.
it could be a detriment, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, I mean, that's I've never thought of it like that. But like, well, I'm only like legit if I could take money from my art and like put it in my art and make more money. But it's like every single artist that I've worked with who's like making money, like they got their money from somewhere else.
Mhm.
Like either it was an investor or a record label or whatever.
Mhm.
It's not like, it's very, very rare. And like even like all these young kids that are signed to labels, it's like, the media and the labels, they want it to seem like, oh, they just like blew up, off their block and like, now they're rich. It's like there's always some guy who's been in the music business for like 20 years, who's
Mhm.
like the dude's uncle, who like put him on and like knows people at the labels and like had money to invest and like make it look that way.
Mhm.
So I agree. I think it is like when artists are just like, why isn't it working for me? And you do have to like treat it like a business if that's what you want it to be.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, I heard someone say I have no idea where I heard this, but basically like if it seems like it's easier for someone else to do the thing that you're doing, it probably is. Probably is. Somebody helped them, somebody had a connection, da 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 like
Yeah. Do you ever feel like 'cause sometimes I feel like people are looking at you like, oh wow, like she's doing all this and doing all that. But then you look at it and you're like, well, I'm not really doing anything.
like for me
Yeah.
personally, um I do think that there's a discrepancy between perception and reality, for
Yeah.
sure. Um Yeah, because I also don't know what exactly people think. I think but I
Right.
do hear like, "Oh, like, you're doing so well," or like, "You must be killing it," or whatever, and I'm like, I receive that for sure,
Yeah.
and I feel like in many ways, like, it does feel like that in my own life because I've decided to feel good about it,
Yeah.
but maybe not in the ways that they think. I'm not sure.
Totally. Yeah, I think that that is like another like plight of like an artist or a creative is like, you know, something happens and it's like I want to celebrate it, but then people like have this perception like, you know, damn, like if I could just be there, I would be
Mhm.
happy, you
Mhm.
know? And I'm like, damn, if I could just be there, I'd be happy, you know?
Right.
And there's always somebody like above me and there's always somebody like below me, I guess, in that area, you know?
Yeah. It's tough because we're fighting with biology. Like our we haven't uh our technology and the things that we're able to have as resources right now have developed faster than like what our brains are, because if we're supposed to survive in a harsh winter, or if the point of our life is to survive, then our brains are perfect because we're always looking for the negative, we're always looking for the problem to solve so that we can be okay. But the more advanced and easy society and culture gets, the sillier and sillier our problems are. Like, I only
Mhm.
have this many followers and this many likes. Like, that's actually a very silly problem, but it can feel just as bad as not being able to survive a winter because our brains haven't kept up. Like,
Yeah.
we're not there. We're not there. So
Yeah.
we have to know that first and then be like, this is a lie. I'm actually great.
Yeah. Well, it's like we don't have that threat anymore. So like this is like a new threat, you know? Like that's
Mm-hmm.
like threatening our survival in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess in some ways it is legitimate.
A little bit.
Like, it's not survival as far as like our physical survival, but like
Yeah.
belonging.
If you make money that way, like through social media or whatever, like I just got my Instagram like hacked
Oh shit.
and I didn't have it for like almost 3 weeks.
Oh
And
my
basically it
god.
said that I like went against community guidelines and all that stuff. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, and then I was trying to log in and there was like somebody else's email and I
That's
couldn't get
so
in. And we
scary
found
actually.
like, yeah, like I found this guy and in like Tanzania or something, and he like hacked it back.
No way.
Yeah, and I
You
got it back like 3 weeks later. But for the first day, I was like crushed. I'm like, so many connections that I have on there
ugh,
that I like
it's
maybe don't have their
everything.
phone number or whatever, you know?
100%.
And it's such like a status thing. You're like, oh, so and so follows you? Like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
like I'm gonna fuck with you now, you know? It's
Yeah.
just like that's how humans are.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn. And for like a day, I was like, wow, like my shit is just wrecked, you know? And then after that, I was like, fuck it. And I spent like 2, 3 weeks like not even on my phone at all.
Wow.
And it was just like I kind of trusted that I was gonna get this dude was like, oh, 100% I'm gonna get it back. And I was just kind of like, whatever. I
Nice.
got it back. And now
That's
I'm on it way
good.
too much again. You know? It's just like, damn.
Also, this is a total side note, but I think that like, you know how you can get meta verified, like
Yeah.
not real verified or not
Oh yeah, like the fake yeah,
organically,
yeah. You
I
can pay
don't
for it.
whatever, you can pay for
Mm-hmm.
it. Um Obviously when I saw that, I think most people's reaction to that is like, that's lame,
Mm-hmm.
like to get meta verified. But the one benefit of being meta verified is that you have Instagram contact support.
Oh,
And so if you get hacked, there's someone you can actually talk to,
nice.
but you're paying $15 a month for that.
Right.
So people think of it as a social status, but it's really just paying for
Yeah.
support. I
Yeah.
didn't do that because my ego won't let me
Yeah.
pay for it because I'm like, no, I got it the real way,
Mm-hmm.
even though it'd probably be a benefit for
You
me
might
to
see me get
actually do
verified soon, honestly, out of nowhere.
it. Yeah, I mean, that's part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I got two-factor authentication now, so I'm set.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. That's good.
Yeah, I feel very secure there.
That's good. Wait, did you not before?
I don't think so. I saw like, this thing on my iPhone was like, all these passwords are gonna leak. And I'm like, ignore, ignore, ignore. Like, I always see that. And I'm just like, nah.
I
Yeah.
know.
I was hurt.
Yeah. Also, like the kids that are like being birthed into existence right now, like us, we grew up with no internet, and now there is
Wait,
internet.
whoa. Not that old.
No, there wasn't.
Yeah, I know. You
There's
had to like
barely
dial
internet.
up
Dial
and
up.
like, yeah, I didn't have like, I wasn't on a smartphone in like high school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
No.
And still, we're just like, yeah, we're getting hacked. It doesn't matter. Yeah, steal all my shit.
Yeah.
Like this next group of people, I
Yeah.
could totally see us just like putting our consciousness and like just having like the government control it or some shit, something.
Sure.
We're so chill about
Why
it.
not?
We're so chill
I mean,
about our
it seems like
privacy.
it's some of it is inevitable. I click all these boxes. And I'm just like, yeah, 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 agree, 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 And I'm like, I think I'm like, oh, I'm only gonna let them see some photos, and I'm fooling myself, Like it's like if they want to tap into like whatever I'm doing, if anyone wanted to see, like, just keep me off any list, honestly, because like if anyone wanted to see what any one of us are doing anytime, like they
They
pretty
can.
much could, yeah,
Yeah.
easily, easily,
Yeah. Just accepted it.
whatever.
We're the convenience culture, you know?
Yeah, I guess.
Like, I don't want to have to go into my email to get a code to go back. No, I want to put in the code and I want it to pop up right there on the iPhone.
Yeah,
Love that.
just take all my information and do whatever you please with it.
Take my soul, you need a drop of blood. You got it. It's
Exactly.
all you.
Exactly. But yeah.
Nice.
So what's next for you? This podcast is going crazy.
It's going crazy.
Yeah, it's booming.
I mean, I feel like being an artist or has taught me so much about becoming and
Yeah.
just like, you know, being yourself out loud and, having the courage to be authentically who you are and just to be like, yeah, I hope that the people who like fuck with me find me.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that like I just feel like so many people anticipate like the people not wanting to support them or like not liking
Mm,
them. And especially because like initially it's usually just like your close friends and family.
yeah.
And your close friends and family have usually known you for a minute and they're kind of like, yeah, okay, you want to do that thing. Like, even if they don't vocalize it, they're
Uh-huh.
not just like, they're not going to really be your true fans.
No.
So it can be embarrassing at the beginning.
Yeah.
But if you push through that, there are people who need you, there are
Totally.
people who need you. And the more you could just share what you know and what you have, like the better we all are.
Yeah. I agree. Well, I think being creative and, like you said, being yourself out loud is like key part of it. But I think also something that you do well is you are supporting other creatives.
Hmm.
And that's just like when you're collaborating with other creatives who have like their own like power and their own like networks. And it's like you can, you know, it's like some people I can see, like for instance, like you're Korean, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was over there, it was like Korean labels are better than US labels.
Mm.
Like I will just say, like
Mm.
that's how I feel because I've been around so many people like in the US who it's like the A&Rs, like they don't really care about creatives that much. Like they're only
Mm.
trying to sign what's hot. Like a lot of them like make beats like in their basement and like think they're better than the producers that they're working with. And it's like
Hmm.
not all of them are like that, but
You
a
encountered.
lot of them are.
Yeah.
But then like when I was over there, it was just like everything that I needed to like, I didn't have to worry
Mm.
about anything, like just create. And they were almost just like
Mm.
building me up in a way that like
Wow.
made me feel like I was like, damn, like I'm really gonna make some like fire shit for them, Cause I'm like, I don't have anything else to worry about. And like, I just felt
Right.
so like seen and just like, I don't know, appreciated.
Mm.
And I just think that just might be like a cultural thing, but it just felt so good. I'm like, I want to go back there as much as possible
Mm.
and just like really see where I can go with that because I feel like I want to live that way too. Like
Mm.
I want to be supportive of other people and I want to like lift other people up and make them not have to worry about stuff and like and I just think it's so much more like fruitful that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what life is about. Like, we're all supposed to have different giftings. We're all supposed to do different things. And in a like utopic world, like we all just get to do what we're supposed to do,
Hmm.
And I feel like,
And it works.
and it works. It's the best.
Yeah.
Everyone feels fulfilled.
But out here we're all competing,
Hmm.
and that's part of like that's a bunch of different things, all kinds of
Yeah.
different people or like capitalism or whatever. I don't think that's even to blame. It's just like everyone is so scared that like someone's gonna take my shine or like whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just so like we're competing,
Yeah.
you know? Where like a healthy amount of that is good, but like in a way where you're like competing with the same person on your team in practice, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you could call it competing or you could call it like challenging or inspiring.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, my guest just before you is like Ava Marie, and like the way that she like performs and the way that like she just can like eat on camera. Like
Yeah.
that shit is so inspiring to me. And I'm like, oh my God, like I need to level up, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and is that competing? No. Like
No.
I'm like, you're doing your thing. And like that inspires me to do my thing, you know?
And that's the thing, but that's the difference between like you and maybe someone else who sees that and is just like, fuck this bitch, you know, like
Right,
who's all
right,
mad
right,
about it,
right. Yeah.
you know?
Which does come like back down to mindset, I feel like. Like
Hmm.
if you think that the industry or life in general is a pie, then there's just no matter even if you take like the tiniest slice, there's only a certain amount of slices that you can get.
Right.
But I think life is more like a tree. Like life is fruit. Like when you eat your own fruit or when someone else eats a fruit, there's seeds in there. And like when those seeds die and they go down to the ground, they sprout more trees. Like it's everyone's success is a piece of fruit that can bring more fruit into the world. Pies don't exist.
Well,
That's not a thing.
clip that. That was nice.
Clip
That was
that.
nice. I like that. We'll write that down. Yeah, that's really good. And I think too, like we were talking about the other day, like those seeds, like sometimes you don't get fruit right away. And so people are like, oh, this isn't working. Like, like kick it. It's like, no,
Mhm.
you like leave it there, like water it.
Mhm.
Like it's not time for that one.
Mm.
There's these other ones I can tend to as well.
Mhm.
And like you never know when that's gonna like sprout and like
Mm.
bring you fruit or like feed, a whole community.
Mhm. Mhm.
But like that doesn't mean you abandon it.
100%.
Yeah.
Or dig it up.
Yeah. Is this working? Oh no, now it's not working
Right.
at
We're like,
all.
there's
Yeah.
no flour in
Yeah.
this. What's going on?
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Even overwatering too. Like if you're focusing too much on it can kill a
Mm-hmm.
plant as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also, I don't know, this whole analogy is like kind of coming, but like seeds before they can be fruitful, they also have to die. Like you can't put a fresh seed in there. Like they have to dry out.
Uh,
And I feel like a lot of times life presents us with these challenges where we kind of have to completely change our perspective, or it can feel like a death of some kind.
yeah.
And it's like, oh, am I not meant to do this? And it's like, no, you're about to be planted. Like
Mm,
you have to embrace that season of like hardship or difficulty or obstacles because
mm-hmm.
you won't be able to be fruitful later if you don't.
Yeah. That's some Scorpio shit right there.
Wait, how so?
Cause like it's all like it's death and rebirth and all
Oh
that
yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Nice.
Love that.
Do you resonate with the Scorpio sign?
I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe I was just brainwashed, to think of myself like that, but it feels very like, well, because we're on the cusp, last
Right.
day. So
Mhm.
I think I have both,
Mhm.
but I definitely feel like that way. And like other people perceive me that way. So
Right.
maybe I'm acting like that and that's what it is, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think there's something to it. Who knows? I mean, I like to take a little bit from everything, I'm not gonna like live and die by like, one thing
Mhm.
specifically, but I like to just take the pearls and leave the rest.
Mhm. Haha.
Wow. There you go.
No, yeah. I think it's good to be open to lots of different ways of describing things. I personally get turned off when specifically men shit on astrology. It's just like you think you know that there's no legitimacy in this at all and it's not helpful at all. Like that to me is arrogance. And I do understand people having issue with people being like, "Oh, I'm not going to talk to them because they're a Taurus or whatever."
Yeah.
But that has nothing to do with astrology. That's just that person. If that
Yeah.
person was religious, they would also think like that. If that person was an atheist, they'd also be like that. Like
Hmm.
it has nothing to do with astrology.
Or like a Democrat or a Republican
Right.
or like a meat eater or whatever.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I think extremism like in any way is like, not for me.
Mhm.
And like people, some people can be successful that way, but most of the people that I know who are like the most successful are like pretty open minded,
Yeah.
pretty flexible,
Mhm.
and aren't really too worried about what the next person like thinks or believes unless it's like directly affecting them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like to any guy out there who's like shitting on astrology, like you're really just you're kind of blowing it for yourself because if you talk about astrology with girls, like they're gonna just love it way more.
Honestly,
So
if you
yeah,
want the
yeah,
ladies,
yeah,
learn a little bit about astrology.
yeah. The hoes love
The
astrology.
hosts love astrology.
Really.
No, yeah. I mean, especially in LA, I just feel like I can relate to more people if I know more.
Totally.
So, yeah. But yeah. So, would you consider yourself spiritual?
Yeah,
In what ways?
absolutely. Um, I believe in I believe in something bigger than myself.
Mm.
And I believe there's some type of energy out there that connects us all. And I have no idea how that works or how we got here. And I don't want to know,
Mhm.
because as
Mhm.
soon as I feel like I know, then it's just like, well, then what's the point?
Right.
I might as well just like move on to the next life right now, or
Mhm.
whatever that is. But um, I think that's the other thing where it's like not like, airplanes really wasn't even a thing to like, I think air travel really became a thing in like like late 50s.
Hmm.
So we're talking like 70 years of people actually being able to go somewhere else and like
Mhm.
learn from somebody else directly.
Not
Like
that
not
long
what I
ago.
hear on TV, not what I read in my book at school when I'm a kid, but like no, like I can go here and like sit down and like eat and drink and hang out with a bunch of people who we don't even speak the same language and still have an amazing time. And they believe something completely different than what I was taught to believe.
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, this is great. This is amazing. It gives me a whole different perspective on the
Mm.
world and life and humans. And, you know, are we from aliens? Like, I don't know. Like, what is God? Like, what are angels? Like, what are all these things? And you have
Mhm.
all these books, and I don't really know much about the books, but I know they're all pretty similar, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's like, so you kind of got this similar story going on, and it's like based off something. So it's like,
Mhm.
where did these early like people get humans or whatever get this like information from?
Mhm.
I don't know,
Mhm.
but I love it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It seems like if there is so much similarity, then like there has to be something legitimate about it. If
sure.
it's like been for all of time, you know? But I think
Yeah,
I think people get caught up in the fact that the manifestation of like the core is so different. So they're like, we're right, or like we're right, or we're
yeah.
right, or we're right, you know?
Well, we're talking like just a couple thousand years old, right?
Yeah.
Or even like I don't even know. Like I said, I don't know much. So don't quote me. Like maybe 5, 6,000 years or something. But like I'm pretty sure they've proven that humans have been around for way longer than that.
Right.
So it's like, ooh,
Yeah.
when did it like kind of become this? Or how?
Yeah. I'm sure there's a book about it.
Probably,
I'd like to read that, but maybe Sapiens tells us? I haven't read
maybe.
it yet. I'll get there.
I don't know.
Um, have you heard that definition of God that says, God is the blanket we put over the mystery to give it a shape?
No, never heard that.
Pretty fire,
It's
huh?
pretty interesting. I don't know. You have to run that back.
Like, I feel like you could say the same thing, like astrology is the blanket or
Yeah.
religion is the blanket. Like it's just the blanket. But the
Hmm.
mystery is the thing that is sustainable and has existed through all of time.
Yeah.
And once we try to say, no, it's not mysterious, it's this,
Mm.
then it's like, no.
I mean, there are some things that I just can't explain. Like if I'm thinking about someone and then I like a couple minutes later, I'm like, well, I'm gonna call them, and then they're like, dude, I was just thinking about you. I'm
Yeah.
like, well, did I send the thought to them or did they send the thought to me? And then I
Right.
got it, and then I called them. Like
Right.
everyone has experienced that, but no
Mhm.
one can explain it.
Mhm.
So like, what is that?
Mhm. I don't know.
That's just like a very base level.
Mhm.
Like you ever been like you kind of like your eyes and you're like seeing stars?
Mhm.
Like, is that just the light, or are you like actually seeing like all the particles in the air?
I know.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. And we also might know. Like think about all the stuff we know now that we didn't used to know. Like things that people used to be like, this is this tiny wooden god doing this, but really it was like I don't
Everybody's collective
know.
thoughts making that so.
No, like some I don't know how to explain something. Something that people might have labeled as spiritual, we now think as scientific
Got it.
because we have like research and
Right.
data and things like that.
Right.
So we might be able to
But do
understand something.
we, or are we just like trusting these guys who like, because a lot of science, and I don't actually know, but like a lot of science, like these guys spend like 30, 40 years like trying to prove this one thing, and then new information will come out and they'll be like, nah, like they don't want to look at that because they're like, I just spent my whole life on this. So like I can't really be looking at this because that'll basically mean I wasted my life.
Yeah.
And that's like the human element of like the interference between like knowledge, you know, and control and different things like that.
Yeah, I was listening to one podcast where like they found a new organ. No,
For real?
for real. They found a new organ, and it's basically like, I'm gonna butcher this, but
Organ in your body?
organ in your body.
Okay.
But the reason that we never knew about it was because we didn't have the technology to like see within the body or something like that. Like as soon as it's oxygenated, it like lays flat or something like that.
Oh.
But there's like this new technology microscope that like it's basically this like hexagonal like padding that like runs throughout our whole entire body that surrounds all the other organs, but it's its own organ.
Word?
We just discovered it like a couple years ago.
Okay.
So like basically we're just always learning new shit.
Yeah.
Like we never know anything ever.
Yeah.
It's just what we know for now.
I feel it.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. I'll send it to you.
Okay, cool. Nice.
Okay, so my last question is, do you feel successful? Do you see yourself as successful? And do you feel happy?
That's a cool question. Yes and no. Because I don't think it's binary. I think it's like a continuum. It's like I feel happy when these things are happening, and then I don't when these things are happening. So it's like I don't think like I think happiness is like a component of life. I don't think like you can say like, oh, I had a happy life. Like overall, yes, for sure. And then like success, the same thing. It's like if I only just wanted to get like a one song with like one of my favorite rappers, then I'm successful. But now I'm here. And I'm like, well, is that it then? So it's like, well, now if I'm here, then I'll be successful, you know? So I think that's that's what I love about it. And like people who are creative are usually pretty ambitious as well. And I think that's what makes some of the best artists in the world and the best business people in the world are like, you know, Steve Jobs, who made all of our lives way easier because he was just like, I am going to just keep pushing this as far and far and far as I can go, even at the expense of his own health or the people around him or anything else.
Right.
You know, so I don't want to be that intense.
Sure.
Like, I'm kind of cool just like vibing, you know, but like, I want to, you know, I still have things I want to do. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very few things are binary.
Right.
So it makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, if people want to be within your dope vibe energy,
Yeah.
how would they find you?
Just like go to a bar in the valley somewhere. I'll be over there somewhere, probably any given day of the week. But you can follow me on Instagram at Mr. James Kaye. So James Kaye. And you can look up my music anywhere, James Kaye. And if you hate it, just delete it and never listen to it again. But if you like it, send me a message. So, because that will make me happy.
Amazing.
Cool.
Well, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, you can subscribe to Track Life Music on YouTube, as well as check out tracklife.com for more content like this. And you can follow Pearls of Wisdom podcast so you never miss an episode. I'll see you next time.